Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing another mixed bag review video. So we are going to be talking about 4 different horror movies that are new to me that I have watched recently. So I really like doing videos like this just because of the fact that there are some times that I just feel like watching a random horror movie I haven't seen before without really having any specific intention of talking about it on my channel anytime soon. And then when I have watched enough of those, I feel like I can do a video with all of them together in it. So all of these ones are ones that were either recommended to me or that I did watch with a specific person, so I'm going to shout out some of those people in this video as well. I'm also going to leave some timestamps down below, that way if there are certain movies that you would rather hear me talk about more so than others, you'll be able to jump around a little bit more easily. So the first one that I want to talk about is Frailty. In Frailty, we have a man with 2 young sons who ends up having a vision from God telling him that he and his sons are supposed to rid the world of demons to try to help the rest of the world. And it becomes apparent very quickly after he tells both of his sons about this vision that one of them is totally in belief of this whole idea and the other one is not at all. So this one was recommended to me by one of my really big supporters, Kyle. He actually had a digital download code that he gave to me so I would be able to watch this one. So Kyle, thank you so much for giving that to me. That way I could check out this awesome movie. And just thank you for being an awesome friend as well. But Frailty, I think, is one that I was always interested in a little bit because I had definitely heard about it in different YouTube videos that I've watched in the past. I've had, years and years of watching YouTube videos about horror movies, and somehow I didn't get this one spoiled for me. I genuinely don't know how. There are so many twists in this one, but miraculously I didn't have it spoiled for me. I'm really glad because it's such a good movie. It has really great performances from the main actors in here, especially Matthew McConaughey and Bill Paxton, who is also the director of this one. And I'm a big fan of his for sure. Definitely, it was hard when he passed away and stuff. I have such a huge love for the movie Twister, so I really like getting to see other things that he had been a part of as well. But I think that this one, really right out the gate, it caught me and just hooked my interest completely with the way that the story is set up. We're kind of jumping back and forth between the present and the past and vice versa. And I think that that works really well for me personally. I usually like movies that are set up that way. And I also really liked the fact that in the scenes that are taking place in the present day, where we are focusing on one of the brothers, and he is talking with a law enforcement agent. And I think that there are a lot of different movies like that or TV show episodes that I've seen that are set up similarly to that I really enjoy. I know I've seen some Criminal Minds episodes that are very similar to that as well. So I really like just the way that this movie is set up quite a bit. And I think that the story itself is very intriguing as well. And like I said, there are many twists in this movie. There is one specific one that I did kind of see coming, but the rest of them I did not at all. And if you have not seen Frailty yet, you definitely need to watch this one. It is a really, really good psychological type of horror film. I think that it's definitely a standout one, especially with those performances in it as well. The next one that I want to talk about is Color Out of Space. So Color Out of Space is about a family that recently moved to this farmhouse out in the country, so they're away from it all. And there ends up being a meteorite that crashes very near to where they live. And just like the title of the movie suggests, there is this color that comes out of that meteorite, and it just alters the world and everything in it for them. Now, Color Out of Space was one that I didn't really have recommended to me. This one is one that I ended up watching with my husband for the first time not long ago. Now, I have to explain this here. My husband is not a horror fan. I know, it's very hard for me especially, but Um, there are random times that he will decide that he would like to watch a horror movie with me, and I have got to jump on those opportunities when I get them. And usually, what I will do, with the fact that I am a big horror buff and stuff, I will kind of listen to his thoughts on what type of horror movie he's looking for, and then I will kind of curate it to try to find something that would fit into that well. And he was kind of explaining more cosmic horror, so I ended up looking up a list of those, and this was one of them on here. And it's one that I had never checked out because I'm not huge on cosmic horror. Like, I'm just not into sci-fi very much, and that's definitely a big part of this one, especially with it being an H.P. Lovecraft story. But I was still intrigued by it, especially with some of the visuals that I had seen in like the trailers and just clips about it in other YouTube videos that I had watched in the past. And honestly, I was very pleasantly surprised with this one. I thought that it was a lot better than I expected it to be, especially with it being, a topic that I'm not super into normally. But I think that there were some good performances in here. We have another eccentric one from Nicolas Cage. And I'm not someone who detests him. I know a lot of people just hate and how much he overacts and stuff like that. I don't really have a problem there with that. There are definitely some performances that are better than others of his, but I tend to like him for the most part. I absolutely adore the National Treasure movies, and he's obviously a big part of those. So I didn't really have an issue with that or anything. I thought he did a pretty good job, and the rest of the cast did as well in here. But I think that the visuals were just absolutely stunningly gorgeous, even more than, what you get to see in the trailers and stuff as far as that goes. The color itself is just so bright and vibrant. I love seeing that in there. I just thought that the visuals really blew me away in this movie, that's for sure. And then on the total opposite end of it, with that color just being so beautiful, we have just some hideous body horror in here. And body horror is another subgenre that I'm not really a big fan of, but I do think that it works very well in this movie. I think it, you know, goes with the concept very well in here. And those visuals were definitely ones that I think will stick with me, those body horror ones for sure. But if you haven't checked this one out and you like cosmic horror or body horror, you should definitely try it sometime soon. The next one that I want to talk about is Bad Samaritan. So Bad Samaritan is about two guys that work the valet part of a higher end restaurant where they live, and they have this scheme that they are doing where once they get the keys and the vehicle for some of these people, if they seem like they would be a good mark, they will take the car back to the person's home and try to steal some items from them. And so our main character ends up going on one of these runs to someone's house, and he finds something that is very sinister there, and he ends up having this decision to make throughout the rest of the film. He can either just forget what he saw and go back to the restaurant, or he can decide to try to do the right thing and not worry about the potential consequences for him for the reasoning that he had gone to that person's house. And I watched Bad Samaritan because my mom had recommended this one to me. I believe it was her that purchased a copy of it for me quite a few years ago. I am notoriously bad about watching new horror movies. I just get into this mood where all I want to watch would be, classic ones that I've seen a whole bunch of times, like comfort horror movies. I will just watch those more often than not. And so I had just kind of had this one on my shelf for a long time, and she ended up bringing it up not too long ago, so I decided that that was going to be one that I would watch and then hopefully talk about in my next video like this one. And I was so glad that I finally watched it because I think that it is a really, really good movie. I think that the premise for it is very similar to The Collector, if you have seen that. I do definitely prefer Bad Samaritan over The Collector, The Collector has a scene with an animal in it that I just really did not like seeing when I watched that movie for the first time, so I never have gone back to that one at all. And there is something with an animal in this movie as well that I don't like. However, in this one, it's not where you see any of it going on. You're aware of what's happening, basically. But I think that this one is just very, very good. We do have really good performances in here as well from the main character as well as the antagonist. And I think that it was just a very tense ride throughout the course of the film. I'm just, as I was watching it, very eagerly waiting for the next scene and just seeing where this was going to go throughout the course of the film. And I have never heard anyone talk about this movie on YouTube before. That doesn't mean they haven't. Just not any of the people that I watch, I guess. But I do think this one is probably a little bit more underrated and maybe a hidden gem. So I would highly recommend checking out Bad Samaritan if you haven't yet. Now, the last one that I want to talk about, and the newest one on this list by far, is The Housemaid. So, The Housemaid is about our main character, Millie, who is trying to get away from her troubled past. However, she is going and trying to get a job working for a wealthy family as a live-in housemaid. And she does end up getting that job, of course. And she finds out pretty quickly that the wife seems to be a little bit off and unhinged and potentially even dangerous. So the housemaid was recommended by a coworker of mine who went to see it with his family, which is honestly hilarious when it comes to the content of this movie. But I was intrigued with this one because there were definitely people in the cast that I have seen in other things before and that I like pretty well. And it just had a pretty interesting premise, I think. I really like thrillers quite a bit. I know they're not exactly horror, but I consider them that for the most part. And I think that this one is a really good thriller at that. I don't necessarily go for the ones that have like quite as much of a smutty tone like this one does, but I didn't think it was too over the top as far as that goes. And I think that this one has some really good twists in it as well. So if you haven't seen The Housemaid yet, you should definitely try to check that out as soon as possible. Just with this one being the newest one on this list, that one could actually be spoiled for you a lot more easily than most of the ones that I've talked about on here. But I want to know your thoughts down in the comments. Have you seen any of these 4 movies that I have talked about, and what are your thoughts on them? Or are any of these ones that you haven't seen but you might watch now that I have talked about them on my channel? Let me know all of that down below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it and consider subscribing if you haven't yet for more horror content. I do post 2 new videos each week. You can follow me on Instagram for updates on my channel as well as additional horror content. You can also follow me on Letterboxd to see what I have been watching lately and my brief thoughts on any of those films. If you would like either of those, they are linked in my channel description for easy access for you guys. I want to say thank you to everyone who has been supporting my channel so far. It doesn't go unnoticed. My name is Devin. This is Carpenter Hill. Thanks for watching.